Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We've got the week 9 kickoff just a couple of days away. It is Friday morning as we record this DraftKings week 9 lineup builder. We talk about all the questions, all the NFL DFS questions for week 9 that my chat has on Twitch. So if you wanted to watch the show, I'm live like 6 days a week, and especially Sunday morning, 45 minutes before lock, twitch.tv/Al_smizzle. Come by, check the stream out, and I'm live every single morning, Monday through Friday during football season as well. So come by and check that out. We're going to take their questions. I'm going to talk about everything they want to talk about, whether it is specifics, salary related stuff, tournament questions, cash game questions, anything they can think of, game theory, anything. We discuss it on this show to kind of take a broad look at everything that there is. It's not like start sit. It's not, should I play this guy or this guy? Because as always, I really don't care who you play. You don't have to play the guys that I write up in Best Buys, which is out, by the way, smizzle.tv/Best Buys. You don't have to do pretty much anything. You can play whichever guys that you want to play. I care about how you play those guys. That's what I'm more concerned with. And that's what we try and teach you guys how to fish and teach you the right ways to play the game to give you the best option so that you can be most prepared going into your games this weekend. So let's take the chat and let's take their questions and let's get to it.
He's a legend.
Obvious quick reminder about the Smiz Gang Listener League. $10 center, 3 max, $30,000 in the prize pool. 100% of it goes back out. Absolutely no rake. If we fill it, it'll stay at 3,000 people moving forward. So let's do that. Smizzle.tv/league takes you there. There'll be a link down below. All of my links to everything, all my socials, Best Buys, Listener League, everything. The charity is all under smizzle.tv/links. I've tried to make this as simple as possible for you guys. And let's bring in the chat. Are polls working today? I don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't know. Twitch has been messing around with the polls and like they don't always work. And I don't know if I have a mod here to put them up or if they can test the fences on that. But if they are here, by all means, please test it out. GD polls. Do we want cash polls today if they're available? I mean, look, I would love it. Okay, well, there's the first question. Is Love cash game viable? Or sorry, Love is cash game viable. Is he GPP viable? So what are my rules for GPPs, guys? I don't care who you play. I really don't. So when you're playing a quarterback in a GPP, you have to concern yourself with, can he get me where I need to go? So if you're playing Jordan Love in a tournament, Jordan Love has to have multiple touchdown upside, right? Whether it's 1 running and 1 passing, whether it's 2 passing or 3 passing, that's what he has to have. Mike White won the Smiz Gang Listener League last week in week 8, and I'm sure that nobody thought that about playing Mike White because he was 0.1% played in that tournament. But if you were going to play him, you had to figure out the path for him to be successful. And the path for him to be successful, or for your team to be successful in a tournament while playing him, means that you must stack him with at least 1 and preferably 2 of his pass catchers. And our winner last week stacked him with Carter, who had been leading the team the week before and running more routes than he had run, and Jamison Crowder. So if you're going to do that, you have to make that play. I would not play Love by himself in a tournament. I would play Love if you want to. I don't think that he is 100% necessary, right? I don't think that it's a must that you play. Oh, good. Polls are working. Excellent. I don't think that it's a must that you play Jordan Love in your cash game lineups. I think that you can play Jordan Love in your cash game lineups if you want to, but I think that it's extremely possible and comfortable to fit Hurts or Burrow or Prescott at 6,900 or Lamar Jackson at 7,300. And it doesn't take a reach to get to them because there's enough value out there at other points that makes him gettable. Now, if everything was really restrictively tight, then I would say, yeah, to get that, you got to get Love. Yeah, Tua at 5,800. There's plenty of quarterbacks at a lot of different price points. and there's enough mid-range wide receivers with an expectation of 8+ targets and running backs that are not expensive that have an expectation to 3x their salary and very cheap options at tight end, that I don't think that makes Jordan Love a lock at quarterback. I think he's fine at quarterback, but I don't feel like he is a lock, must-play cash game quarterback this week. Yeah, Stabby Lung is back. For those who don't know, Stabby Lung is that's Tyrod Taylor. Is Tyrod Taylor the best value? I think that paying up a little bit at quarterback is probably better. Look, if you want Tua, if you want Jordan Love, if you want Derek Carr, sub 6K value guys, I'm fine with those three guys. If that's where it has to go. The chat has chosen, 45% of the chat said that the optimal cash game QB, so we'll do this again this week. Now that the polls are working, and thankfully the polls are working, the chat has chosen Lamar Jackson as their go-to cash game QB for this week. So that's our start there. If you're going to play, now look, in cash games, you don't have to play any of his pass catchers. You're playing Lamar Jackson in cash because of the tremendous floor that he brings you with his rushing yards, the upside that he brings you with his touchdown upside on the ground. Only one game where he's run in touchdowns this year, but he had multiple that game. Averaging 26 fantasy points per game, has the ability to get you the bonus either on the ground or through the air. It can happen and has happened. And I think this could be a week that he kind of has to blast off a little bit based on the game environment that exists there. I won't be on Lamar. No, that's fine. Play whoever you want. Right? Like that Blender that's been his train for a while, right? Play whoever you want. Like I've been along those same lines. Like, look, if you don't like who I talk about, you're not contractually obligated to play the players that I discuss or that chat likes. Play. I don't care who you play. I care about how you play. That's way more important than who you play, is the how and you understanding the why of the decisions that you're making. Way, way, way more important. Do I think there are any near must plays in cash games this week? Usually no. Typically the must plays are running backs or wide receivers, right? Not quarterback, because the band of quarterback scoring is so tight. And tight ends are so infrequently targeted that it's usually optimal to pay down at tight end, like sub 5K. And if you can afford to pay up because of just the way that salaries work out. If you believe that there is a wide receiver who's going to get 8+ targets at sub 4K, they're typically the must-play guys. I don't see anybody like that this week. I think most of the wide receiver plays this week for tournaments. Look, guys, wide receivers to me in tournaments, other than the guys who are the glaring values and I'm going to use as one-offs or secondary stacks, my wide receiver percentages basically come from the access to the quarterbacks. And especially if I've got both quarterbacks on a team, then I'm probably going to have a higher percentage of that wide receiver than the field. So other than my one-offs that are glaring values and running backs, who there's a lot of, right? If there was a running back who was so super cheap and was going to get so many touches this week that he became like a must play, I think that Ezekiel Elliott is absurdly cheap at 7K, right? I mean, he's entirely too cheap. I think that Josh Jacobs going up against the Giants at 6,200 is a really good play. I think Patterson's usage in the passing game and elevated snaps and now more guaranteed usage in the pass game is there. I think that Nick Chubb is going to be somebody they're going to have to lean on, but he's dangerous for cash games because of this targets column where he doesn't. So, like, to me, he's kind of relegated to a more of a tournament play. There's a lot of guys at running back every single week, it seems, on DraftKings because they've been against elevating the prices. Like Alvin Kamara at 8,200. Now, typically at this time of the year, It's usually week 9 and 10 that they start tightening the screws, right? The DraftKings pricing department starts tightening the screws. I kind of feel like this is the last week that we're going to see running backs top out in this range. Usually it's this time of year, like week 10, that they start ratcheting this up. And like guys like Kamara, McCaffrey, Ekeler, Cook start going up and get closer to like 9K, 9,500, 10K, and you have to kind of figure it out. So Chad, if y'all want to go vote on who the optimal cash game running back is, and we'll plug that in, I'll take a few more questions as we go on. Above average Amari for sure in cash. There's a lot of wide receivers. There's a lot of what somebody mentioned. Hunter Renfrow at 4,800 should get a lot of targets. Really good floor in him, not the best ceiling. Marquise Brown leading the league in terms of end zone targets and one of the league leaders in air yards and getting enough targets to be cash game viable. T. Higgins at 53, Marquise Brown at 6,000, Tyreek Hill at 8,200, who you can easily get to. There's a lot. You can do a lot of things. Right? It's not, pricing is more fair. Bryan Edwards is a low cost GPP play. He may be fine for cash. He may be that guy that you go to in cash. Bateman for cash are too cute. Cash games need to be about targets only. Right? Running backs, we're looking for guys that have an expectation of over 20 touches while including targets. And we've talked about targeting targets at running back. But your wide receiver plays have to only be about targets. It does look like Edwards is going to be locked in to a lot more snaps and routes. But they've seemingly been pretty hesitant to rely on him. How do I feel about Gaskin running back for cash? I think he's fine. All right, so chat has determined. I didn't see who the other running backs were on that poll. But chat has chosen, and chat's optimal running back for cash is Austin Ekeler, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who have given up the second most DraftKings points per game to opposing running backs, as you can see right here on this free rotogrinders tool. Smizzle.tv/rotogrinders, if you want to go check out all of their stuff. 9 points less allowed per game to running backs than the Jets. This is isolated to running backs only, allowing 108.88 rushing yards per game and 7.63 receptions per game to opposing running backs. What does that work out to? Third in the league in terms of catches per game to opposing running backs. Seems like a pretty good spot for a player like Austin Ekeler, who I don't know if you guys have heard, he's pretty good at catching the football. They're going to plug him in. Y'all are going to have to find some value. I know you can at tight end, and there's value at wide receiver. 4,900 remaining for, obviously defense is going to bump that upward as well. So chat, spending up at quarterback, spending up at running back for their first spot. You think Ekeler catches the ball? Yeah, I do. When I run the optimizer, do I go by ceiling or You can't sort by volume. You can run it for a bunch of different things. You can run by projected, which is basically the median projection. You can run by ceiling. I would run by projected if you're, projected points if you're trying to come up with a cash game lineup, because you're looking more at median than ceiling. And I would still want to isolate median players who have access to a ceiling, right? So for cash games, I want high floor, high ceiling. I want that upside. So like, while Renfrow is fine and he's safe, it's very difficult for Renfrow to get a 30-point game on DraftKings. It's very, like he'd have to catch 12 balls for 100 yards and still get into the end zone, right? That's a tough game. That's an outlier game at wide receiver. The wide receiver poll could be interesting. Yeah, I can. Wait a while on it, though. Wait like 10 minutes. Right? Let's get to more questions. So somebody asked, is Bateman viable? Like, I think Bateman's fine for tournaments. I'm still waiting on Sammy Watkins. Haven't really decided on him yet. and I haven't dug through exactly everything in that spot. You know, he was limited in practice on Thursday. If Sammy Watkins is active, that will cut into Bateman's snaps, and that will cut into Bateman's routes. You know, it's a thing that's going to happen. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be a thing. So him being on the field means that Bateman's not going to be on the field as much. So if Bateman's not on the field, these 6 targets that he's seen each of the last 2 weeks could dip to 3 or 4. I think Bateman is certainly extremely talented and has a big-time ceiling as an NFL receiver, but he is a rookie, and is whatever you think about Sammy Watkins, and you know he's been named Sam Meh Watkins, M-E-H Watkins. No matter how average you think he may be, he was soaking up a lot of routes and soaking up a lot of targets in the absence of Bateman, and was doing quite well in that Ravens offense. There's something to being a veteran in the league that is a professional who shows up with a lunch pail, does his job, and that is valued by a lot of coaches in this league because they know where you're going to be. So while Bateman's way more explosive, if Watkins is active, that's not good for Bateman. Looking like no Devontae Parker this weekend. Back to the well with Waddle. Yep. Waddle and Gesicki. Way more in play without Parker. So those Tua doubles, like the Tua stacks now, if you're gonna play that against Houston, if you think, okay, I'm gonna play Tua stacks, right? In my tournaments. So like Tua, you could go with Gaskin, you could go with Waddle. Probably not going to mess around with any of Preston Williams or Mac Hollins or Isaiah Ford or the Bird Alert and Gesicki. I'm going to allow Tua to be paired with a running back, but like also this is going to be the 3 guys I cycle through in my Tua doubles if I'm playing Tua doubles this weekend. I don't know if I am or not, but that's where it's probably going to end up. These are your Tua doubles for this weekend. And it's not going to be played a lot. Like it'll have some traffic, but it's not going to have a ton. Like individually, a couple of the parts will have some people. Parker's been out a lot. Parker's been out an awful lot. So like we have a sample of Waddle in games without Parker. I'll try and dig it up for you while you guys ask some more questions. Sometimes I have to do this stuff on the fly. Amari Cooper is 5,700. Yep. Like I said, 5,000 to the mid 6K range. And like, give me a little bit of leeway on that, right? Sometimes it's to 6,400. Sometimes it's to 6,700, right? That's typically been the range. That's typically been the range where the wide receivers have sat. You know? Open image in new tab. This is going to be from rotoviz.com. I love their game splits app. I always have. It makes things very simple. I know that some people can't read in split and out of split. In split means that these are the games that Devontae Parker played. This is Jalen Waddle in games where Parker played. This is Jalen Waddle in the 3 games that Parker did not play. He receives 1 more target per game. He has scored more touchdowns. He has had 1 more catch per game. He has averaged 16 more yards per game. So, as it would make sense, when you take away, when you vacate targets, somebody has to fill that void, right? And we can do the same thing over here. We can take Gesicki, and we can do the same thing this year with him. Open image in new tab. Here's the same split with Gesicki. Make that bigger so you can see it. In the 5 games that Parker has played, Gesicki averages 6.2 targets, 4.4 receptions. In the 3 games that he was not there, 6.3 receptions, 7.6 targets. Almost double the amount of receiving yards. So those are your 2 guys. In the games that Parker doesn't play, Waddle and Gesicki definitely get a bump. That's where they go. And they also throw the ball a lot to the other tight ends too. They just have nobody on the outside that can get open. So they end up being this really weird thing. Maybe my prop play picks. Oh, let's see what we're going to miss by 1 point this week. What props are we going to miss by a half? Where's the hook going to bring us back this week? Let's go to Pick'em NFL. We're going to head over to Underdog Fantasy. You can go over to Underdog Fantasy if you use code ALSMIZZLE, all one word, at checkout. It'll be right over here. Make it very easy for you. Again, or just use smizzle.tv/underdog. That will take you there as well. They have all these different little over-unders that you could play. I like to kind of correlate them with players that are either you have to play players from 2 different teams. So I'll correlate like a running back with a quarterback with a pass catcher. Sometimes I'll have the bring back player on the other team. Ezekiel Elliott over under 98 yards. That seems low. Total receiving and rushing. That seems low. Where's Miami? Gesicki over 457. Jalen Waddle. Ooh, 57's low. Okay, over that. Don't bet the Parker because if he doesn't play, then it's not a thing. And let's pick somebody on the other side. Tyrod Taylor, 228 passing yards. David Johnson, 34.5 rushing plus receiving. How the mighty have fallen. I'm going to go over Tyrod. So over gang. Unders are much sharper. I like losing. So I'm going to play 3 overs here. 50 to win, 300. Mike Gesicki over 51.5. Myles Gaskin over 69.5 total. And Tyrod over 228. So we're going to correlate that. You got to correlate. There's my plays right there. Al Smizzle at checkout gets you 10 free dollars, and they're doing a deposit match right now up to 100. So like if you deposit $100 onto Underdog, you get $100 from the site. So go check it out. Use Al Smizzle on your first deposit. It's basically like a free $100. You should probably take the free $100. Maybe Gaskin's play. I'm a sucker. I'm such a sucker for the running backs where it's like rushing and receiving yards, or the quarterbacks where it says total yards, where it's not just passing. You know? Like they've had that a bunch of times with Jalen Hurts this year, and I've hammered every one of them. It's like Jalen Hurts over 275 total yards. Yeah, I'll take that over. He's going to run for 60. He'll throw for 220. Tyrod confirmed playing. Yes. That's true. And I like them. I like that offense better with Tyrod than I do with Mills Mafia. Preferred bringbacks when using Buffalo stacks. Okay, let's look. I kind of feel like you have to go value. I could be way off, right? So like, one, the reason you kind of have to go value if you're doing Buffalo stacks, are you targeting an expensive Buffalo stack, like a Buffalo double here with Diggs and either Beasley or Sanders, or are you targeting the cheaper stack with Sanders and Beasley? Right? Let's say you're targeting this one, and let's say that we're using Beasley because he's 200 cheaper. I kind of feel like, well, one, most people are cheap on Jacksonville. It's not like you got to spend a lot. James Robinson, questionable. Unable to practice Wednesday or Thursday. He's trying things out on Friday, but we don't have Friday's practice report yet. So monitor that. And obviously, if he's out, don't play him. That's my pro tip for you. If Robinson is out, don't play him. Carlos Hyde is 4,900 and in a very good game script for him to get a whole lot of targets on dump downs. Other guys who have been good recently, Jamal Agnew seeing a solid amount of usage in the passing game, running a lot of underneath stuff, playing the route. Jamal Agnew is who everybody on football, on Dynasty Twitter, on Draft Twitter, on Fantasy Football Twitter, Best Ball Twitter wanted Laviska Shenault to be. This is what they wanted. It's all right here. Jamal Agnew is who they wanted Laviska to be. Laviska is not who they wanted him to be, at least not this season, at least not thus far. I think that Agnew is definitely a play here. Or I love filling the tight end spot in a stack because it means that I don't have to use it as a one-off. And Dan Arnold, since coming to this team, has gotten 8, 5, and 10 targets. They're always in a positive passing script. The other thing is Buffalo's defense is quite good, and they have been tougher when targeted on the outside. Their cornerbacks are really, really good. They're like first or second in the league in terms of defensive efficiency when teams target outside wide receivers. Okay, they don't let you do it. But they're like 18th in the league when targeting the tight end. Now look, you may not like Dan Arnold. You may not think he's a big upside play, but like at 3,400, he doesn't have to be a big upside play. He just needs to do enough. And if he can wander into the end zone with the volume that he's had, like the volume's been good. He's gotten here on volume alone. 11 fantasy points for 2,900, 14 fantasy points for 2,800. The volume's been good enough to warrant making this play, especially in a double stack, right? If he wanders into the end zone at 3,400 this week, it's an absolute smash play. Like in Buffalo, like where's the Vegas dashboard? They're expected to score like 17 points. So that's 2 touchdowns, right? What if one of them goes to Arnold and they get stomped and it's a lot of passing and he gets 8 targets, 1 touchdown? He's going to crush 3,400 in that scenario. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the path of least resistance against the Bills defense is when targeting inside the hashes and targeting tight ends. They're not as good defensively as they are on the outside. So if you were to attack them, that's probably where I'd be attacking them. Just my thoughts. But like Agnew's fine. I probably would not attack on the outside, but like in a tournament, if you're going after, Carlos Hyde, fine. If you're going after, they're all going to be low percentage. If you're going after MJJ because nobody's going there, he's going to be a 1 or a 2% guy, great, go for it. And if you get lucky, you catch lightning in a bottle, which can happen in football. If he gets like gets lucky, the guy falls down, he gets a 45-yard touchdown pass, as he is the highest targeted player on that team and has a really good ADOT, good. Go for it. Right? I don't care who you play. I care how you play them. Thoughts on Arizona wide receivers? I don't have an opinion because we don't know everything yet, right? Daily fantasy is a game of partial information, and it's way too undetermined right now, right? Kyler was not at practice on Friday. They've already said, at least not for the open part, right? Like he may be out there after the reporters leave. But like they've said he doesn't have to practice to play, so like he still may start. He's up in the air. If he's not starting, then Colt McCoy is starting. Probably don't want any part of Colt McCoy. But AJ Green, probably not going to play, right? Probably not going to play. Vaccination status is unknown. Availability for week 9 is now in question. If he's forced to sit out, I kind of feel like that elevates Christian Kirk more than it elevates Rondale Moore. I think Rondale Moore is just fine. And again, there's so many ifs involved, right? We also have Hopkins, who was not at practice on Friday for the open percentage. So, like, I can't give you an answer in this spot. I wish I had more but there's no possible way that I can give you an educated answer on what to do with Arizona when we don't know AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins' statuses, the two guys who snap the most at wide receiver for them, and their all-world quarterback. There's really not much I can do there. You know, I can't know. So the wide receivers for optimal cash game, Hunter Renfrow, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, and Jarvis Landry. Went through the poll. Our winner at 38%. So a lot of division in that one. Not like a clear-cut, not a clear-cut play there, but we're going to fill out this poll anyway. Was Amari Cooper. Coming off of a big game with Cooper Rush, 21 targets over the last 2 weeks, 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games, a really high-powered offense against the Denver defense that has been struggling. Probably not expecting 30 points again from him, but like he's averaging 17.5 for 5,700. This price seems ridiculous, right? That price just feels really dumb, and it feels dumb, one, in a vacuum. Right? It feels dumb all by itself. It feels really dumb. If I could just find the team, that would be great. It feels really dumb considering that CeeDee Lamb might not go. If Lamb plays, fine. But like if Lamb doesn't go, then Amari Cooper is dumb priced. So he is who chat has voted as the lock-in cash game guy at wide receiver. Not sure that I disagree. Even with Lamb, he's too cheap. Fine to go Cooper and Zeke both in cash. So that's a good question. So typically I don't stack in cash, right? But I will play players. You're looking for points per dollar. You're looking for floor of volume versus salary. You're looking to stack as much volume as you can into your cash game lineup. And just because 2 players are on the same team does not mean that they don't project to outperform their salary. Using as an example, Darrell Henderson's really dumb price of $6,500 in week 8 and Cooper Kupp being Cooper Kupp in week 8. Both of them were cash game viable before the week. Both of them paid off their tags during the Sunday games. And we're both fine for tournaments. Would running the optimizer by points per salary work for cash? Sure. Depends which lineup builder you're using, but they always will have an option for running off of value. So like Fantasy Labs has, they use it, it's like their projected plus minus, right? Gaskin and cash, he's fine. There's 4 running backs in the league who have gotten at least 14 carries and 4 or more targets the last 2 weeks. Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, I think Austin Ekeler, and Gaskin. Those are the 4 guys. Don't quote me. I'm sure I'm wrong on one of them. But I believe that was the stat. It's not Ekeler. Sorry. But it was another great running back. I could figure it out. Let me find out where it was. This was let's see. It's Kamara, Swift, Zeke, and Gaskin. Those are the 4. So Gaskin is getting pretty good varied usage the last 2 weeks without Malcolm Brown once he got hurt. Latavius out leaves Murray to lead the backfield, and it's still gross. I agree, it's gross. Mr. Slap, thank you for the 3 months. 9/11, thank you very much for the 22 months. Why is the tag in front of my face? Overlays, go back here. There. Dallas stacks are silly cheap. Yep, they are. Even if they aren't the Carnival, they're too cheap. There's still a ridiculously good offense. Any preference for the 5th option? What? Oh, you're talking about the poll. I get it. Elliott going for double bonus this week? That's rare. I can't see that happening. Don't know if you covered it. Yeah, we talked about Love. He's fine. I don't think he's like, sometimes there are players that are just a must play in cash. And I don't see Love as a must play in cash. I think he's fine. Said Wilson is 3,600 if no CD. Yeah, it's extremely cheap. And there might be no Jarwin either. Can I talk about Chubb for cash? I know he's going to pop in different optimals based on what site you use, but I'm not playing cash. You guys know that. I'm tournament only. I play my one high stakes lineup and then I play 150 in a Millionaire Maker. And I do that on both sites. I can't, as much as I like Nick Chubb a lot as a player and as a fantasy running back, when I'm looking at cash game options on DraftKings, now on FanDuel, probably a different story. With FanDuel being more less volume orientated and more touchdown weighted because of half PPR and no bonuses, right? DraftKings, you get 3 extra points if they break 100 yards. DraftKings, you get a point for every reception versus a half point for every reception. The bonuses and that extra half point really matter a lot. And so I end up targeting targets. And in the games that Nick Chubb has played without Kareem Hunt the last few years, he's averaged 4 targets a game. And yeah, there's a lot of vacated targets right now on that Browns team with Odell Beckham Jr. being released. Go look for that video on my reactions on that on the second channel, Al Smizzle Games. But if we could say for certain that they were going to target Nick Chubb 4 times a game, 3 times this week, then yeah, I'd be on him. But on the road, we don't know what his target floor is going to be. He's GPP only to me. With his current workload, he is GPP only to me because he has a 5-6 point floor. And the guys that are priced around him don't have that sort of floor. Cordero Patterson, in his current role, does not have that floor and is 400 cheaper. Ezekiel Elliott does not have that low of a floor and is 300 more expensive. You know, it's difficult to warrant doing that. It's very difficult to warrant putting Nick Chubb in a cash game when there's all these other options. Alvin Kamara, if you want to pay up. Dalvin Cook against Baltimore, who has not been as good a defense, but I'm probably not going to go that way in cash. I think he's fine for tournaments. Aaron Jones against Kansas City's defense. They may have to dump it down to him way more. Joe Mixon with his volume and volume in the passing game. We talked about Austin Ekeler. We know the matchup for him. Like, there's so many more paths that I can't imagine having Nick Chubb in cash as one of my top 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 options for head-to-heads. I can't see it. Pack Horse, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Another new member of the VIP. If you're not already, make sure that you get in the Discord. ! Discord. Bad Sandwich, thanks for gifting a sub. If you're not already in the Discord, make sure you get in there. Smizzle.tv/Discord. Keep up the positive vibes. I'm trying, man. I'm doing what I can. What player does projected percentage does a player have to carry in tournaments for me to consider fading them for the week? Doesn't matter. Get off the idea that a player at X% is unplayable. The cumulative percentage of your entire roster is way more important than the single percentage of a single player. The reason that player has that percentage is because they're a really good play. Usually because they're mispriced versus their volume. So we try to stay under 125 or 130% for the lineup as a whole. Right? We're not playing a player, we're making a lineup. And in order to make a lineup that is viable for a tournament, there's no percentage that I would fade a player in cash. Not one. Because cash, I don't need to be faster than the bear. I just got to be faster than you. Right? It's a lot like the guillotine league. Just don't finish in last, forehead. In a 50-50, I don't have to be in first place. 50th place pays the same as first. So all you have to do is have a really high floor. Now, some of these players are going to have really high floors and really high ceilings, like an Amari Cooper per se. So he's going to carry a high percentage this weekend, especially if CeeDee Lamb is out. But there's no reason that you have to fade him. You just have to work around him if you're going to include him in a tournament lineup to make the other pieces be under 125 or 130. Oh no, the mod's gone. We need an adult. We have multiple mods in here. Nick Toons, thank you for converting to a tier 1 sub. Appreciate that. Tight end poll incoming. Nice. Is it going to show over the hype train? Maybe wait. Oh, it shows. Good. So for the tight ends, it looks like we have Albert O, Okwebunam, Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, Tyler Conklin, and Mark Andrews are our 5 choices in terms of the guys that are projecting for the highest percentage at tight end this week. And chat is going to try and pick out their optimal tight end. Their first 3 plays in the cash game, let's say backbone, the chat cash game backbone is Lamar Jackson, Austin Ekeler, Amari Cooper, and now they're going to fill in a tight end. Overwhelmingly, the chat is looking to pay down. The chat not looking to pay a lot of money at tight end. You got to find that value somewhere, like we talked about. This is kind of what we thought would happen, and then we're going to pay cheap at defense as well. Defense and tight end are allowing you to do whatever you want. That's why Jordan Love is not a must play, because there's plenty of defenses that are sub 3K this week, and there's multiple tight ends at 3,500 and down who project for 6+ targets. You know, at or around 6 targets or more, that it's not necessary. You thought Arnold was a good cash play? He is. We run the polls. We pick the top 5 players on projected percentage, and we let you pick from them. I can't have a poll with 30 different players on them. What do I think about Bateman? We already talked about Bateman. Bateman's value and snaps and targets are very closely tied to Sammy Watkins' ability this weekend. If it comes down to who I'd want for cash on floor, it'd probably be 4,100. I'd go for Edwards at that price point. So tight ends broke down this way. There's 2 guys that were greatly valued. One, Tyler Conklin at 50%, and Albert O coming in second in the absence of Noah Fant were the 2. So let's go over to the chat's cash game lineup here. We'll plug in the tight end. Travis Kelce at 7K. I mean, I'm still on that. Darren Waller might see more targets, a few more targets this week, but he always patrols the underneath targets. If they have to fill the Ruggs role, it's going to be somebody who's running deep routes, and that's just not Darren Waller. It's also not Renfro. So somebody else, I think, is going to benefit from those. Talked about how much I like Gesicki at 4,900, though I understand he's mostly a tournament play. But it's Conklin at 3K here, coming off of what? 7 targets, 5 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets. Like, he can get here on volume alone against Baltimore, who's been one of the worst teams in the league in terms of defensive efficiency against tight ends. I think they're first in the league or second in the league in terms of DraftKings points against at the position, as well as like 6th in the league over the last 4 weeks. So like, yeah, they played Like, they had a murderer's row of tight ends, and tight end defense versus position can be extremely noisy. We understand that. But the first 3 weeks they played like Waller, who had 19 targets. They played Kelsey, who had a ton of targets and catches, and they played Hawkinson, who had like 11 targets against him. So their DVP versus tight ends has been messy based on that start to the season. But if you cut those out over the last 4 weeks, they're still one of the 6 worst in the league in terms of allowing DraftKings points to opposing tight ends. So Conklin, more than fine here at 3K, averaging 9 fantasy points per season on the season, and only 3K this week. So there's the cash game shell from the chat. Lamar, Ekeler, Cooper, Conklin still has 5,200 to go. You can pick any defense under like this. Don't take this as a defense I'm playing, but like you plug another defense, you still have like 5,800 plus average for the rest of your spots in here. So if you were to find like a value wide receiver, and then you could basically spend whatever you want everywhere else. It's not difficult this week to build a cash game lineup. Once again, focus on the volume, target targets, make sure that you're double stacking in tournaments, make sure that you got your secondary stacks on point. And I wish you the best of luck this weekend. If you got a couple of seconds, head over to smizzle.tv/charity. And if you could, every single dollar helps. We're trying to get to $25,000. We're approaching 17,000 raised on the season to our No Kid Hungry fundraiser. Once we get to 20,000, I will donate another 10,000. I'm already 20,000 in terms of matches so far. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.